Hi folks, we have an update here for you. It's Thursday the 9th of April. It's the beginning of a long weekend. Easter Bunny is on its way. I know my kids are excited. A lot of governments have announced that it's an essential service, the Easter Bunny, so looking forward to that. But before we get to that, let's talk about the market, what we saw happen this week. First off, the S&P 500 had its best week since 1974, the year I was born. I always love seeing stats when they predate or meet my age. The TSX Composite Index also did very well, up 10% in the week. On the fixed income side, we didn't see a lot of changes in Treasury yields. Basically, US yields are still, short-term Treasuries are still trading at or slightly below negative, and Canadian yields are just slightly above. What we are seeing in the market right now are banks and credit unions here in Canada raising their rates as they're trying to improve their balance sheets on the deposit side. The feedback we've been getting from them is that they are anticipating a drawdown on their deposits, and so they're trying to help improve that by creating a bit of a cushion for them. So for this week, we've seen a lot of our clients accessing that market and getting generally above market rates. Now, the big news this week, of course, were the jobless claims coming out of both Canada and the United States. Both those numbers were released today on Thursday. In the US, we saw the first week of April, so last week's jobless claims came in at a 6.6 million jobless claims. The month of March in the United States saw 10 million people making claims that they'd lost their jobs. Canada, by contrast, being a tenth of the size of the United States, had 1 million jobless claims. So we saw a very similar continuity between the number of jobless claims in Canada and the United States. Phenomenal numbers. These numbers, folks, just to give you a context, these numbers blow away anything that we've ever seen in our history. These make, on a graph, as you can see, make the jobless claims from 2008 look like a little blip on the screen. On the fiscal policy front, we saw the Federal Reserve come out with something completely unheard of, $2.3 trillion in new funding activity. And these programs, there's a lot of them with all these new names. There's the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, through the Paycheck Protection Program Liquidity Facility. Try and repeat that one 5 times. You've got the Main Street Lending Program, the primary and secondary market corporate credit facilities, the Term Asset-Backed Securities Loan Facility, the Municipal Liquidity Facility. I mean, there's just all sorts of new programs and money being printed right now. And folks, you need to understand there's going to be a cost to this at some point. We're just announcing this details right now, but we're going to be talking later about how this is going to impact future tax programs and how this is going to have an impact on the currency. In other news, oil dropped another 9% despite OPEC coming to some better terms between Saudi Arabia and Russia. 10 million barrels a day is what OPEC announced they would be dropping their production by, and the market kind of sloughed that off. It wasn't a big enough number for the market to react positively. So big drop in oil prices. We're seeing our friends and colleagues in Alberta really suffering right now. I saw in the news earlier this week that some of the oil prices going off for sale in Alberta are going below $8 a barrel, and talk about negative oil prices. Absolutely astonishing. And our thoughts are with the people in Alberta right now. You guys are dealing with a crisis on top of a crisis. Also in other news, Japan announced a US trillion dollar economic package for its country. And funny on the video chat side, of course, everybody's been using Zoom. There's been a bit of a falling out with the people who've been using Zoom because of security concerns. So we've seen Google Meet come to the market. They've been around for a while, but they've rebranded their name under Google Meet. They're adding 2 million users a day right now. In fact, in the month of March, they announced that they had 2 billion minutes of videos being recorded in the month of March. Just to give you a context, that's 3,800 years worth of video. Now, the last thing I want to speak about, which I think is actually probably one of the most important for everybody here in Canada, especially business owners, is what is being described as Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan by the Canadian federal government. Again, we'll spend some time later talking about how this is going to impact the taxpayers in a later date and inflation and all those kind of other aspects that this is going to cost us later on. But let's just dive into some of the details. First of all, there's the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program. This program was originally launched and said the Canadian government was going to provide a 25% wage subsidy. Then they changed it to 75% of wages. They said that you had to have a 30% drop in revenue from year over year, from March to March of 2019 to 2020. They've changed that now. Basically, it seems like every time somebody complains, the federal government makes these programs better for everybody. And I don't know if the Liberal government understands that you can't make everybody happy. You're not going to be able to bail out every single Canadian and every single business. And I would make the argument it's probably not a good idea anyways. But in short, where we're at now with this program, all the details haven't been ironed out. But at this point, apparently how it's going to work is businesses who can demonstrate a 15% decline in top line revenue from March of 2019 or January, February of 2020 to their numbers they've achieved in March of 2020 will be able to qualify for this program. It's going to be a 75% wage subsidy up to a maximum of $847 per week per employee for a total of 12 weeks. We're coming near the summer period and students are out looking for work now as they're finishing up school. So Canada, of course, has their coveted Canada Summer Jobs Program, highly promoted by Justin Trudeau, and they have added some more incentives to that. Now here, at least in BC, if you hire a student, you will receive $7 an hour in wage subsidies for hiring a student. The government also announced for businesses and corporations, extensions on both filing of your income taxes and payment dates are being extended as well as to when you need to file and pay for your income taxes. There's a $40 billion program that's also being funded for BDC or Business Development Bank of Canada and Export Development Bank or EDC to provide further funding for businesses that are looking for help in this market, in this very difficult market. And then finally, the one that I'm paying the most amount of attention to is the Canada Emergency Business Account. Now this is the one that, of course, Justin Trudeau said, if you're planning on gaming the system, don't. Well, Justin Trudeau, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to find a lot of people gaming the system, and it's going to be very difficult for you to determine who those people are. Here's how the program works. You can borrow up to $40,000 in loans, interest-free, and the way the terms are detailed right now, if you pay back 75% of that loan by December 31st of 2022, you get to have 25%. The other 25% is written off and you don't have to pay it back. So if you're borrowing $40,000 and you pay back $30,000, that $40,000 by December 31st, 2022, you don't have to pay back the other $10,000. In order to qualify as a business, you have to be eligible. You have to have paid $50,000 in payroll in 2019. So expect a lot of businesses applying to this program. It's been another week of ups and downs and lots of surprises. And of course, for the kids this weekend, they'll get surprised with Easter Bunny. I know my kids are super excited. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Get some rest, folks. Stay healthy. Stay socially isolated. We'll come back to you next week with some more details. Thank you.